Not because I'm lucky, not because I'm special, but because I never stopped doing the small things that most people ignore. The day after I retired, I woke up at exactly 5:47 a.m. No alarm, no reason, just habit. And waited for something to happen. For 42 years, that moment meant one thing: get up, go to work, be needed. But that morning, there was nowhere to go. No calls, no schedule, no one waiting on me. And for the first time in decades, I felt completely free. For about 3 days. After that, something else started to creep in. A quiet feeling that nobody really talks about. My name is Harold Bennett. I'm 103 years old now, and I've lived most of my life in a small town outside Denver, Colorado. It's not a place you'd notice on a map, but it's the kind of place where people remember your name, even if you don't see them for years. I worked most of my life as an electrical technician. Nothing fancy, just honest work. Fixed problems, kept things running. And for over 4 decades, that job gave my life structure. It told me when to wake up, where to go, what to do. And most importantly, it gave me a reason to feel useful. When I retired at 65, I thought I had it all figured out. Savings in the bank, house paid off, no debts. I remember telling my wife, now we can finally relax. And we did at first. We took short trips, visited friends, watched more television than we probably should have. But after a while, the days started blending together. Monday didn't feel different from Thursday. Morning didn't feel different from evening. And slowly, I started losing something I didn't even realize I depended on. Structure. You see, when people talk about retirement, they talk about money, savings, investments, Social Security, but nobody talks about what happens inside your mind. No one tells you that one day you might wake up and wonder, where do I belong now? Because for most of your life, your identity is tied to what you do. You're a manager, a dryer, a business owner. And then suddenly you're just tied. I remember one afternoon sitting in my living room, the TV was on, but I wasn't watching it. I just sat there, quiet. And a thought crossed my mind that I didn't like. If I'm not working, what am I? And that feeling stayed with me for weeks. Until one morning, I did something small. I put on my old walking shoes and stepped outside. No plan, no destination, just movement. The air in Colorado was crisp that morning, cool enough to wake you up. And as I walked down my street, I noticed things I hadn't paid attention to in years. The way the sunlight hit the houses, the sound of birds, a neighbor watering his lawn. Simple things, but they felt. That morning walk turned into a habit, not because I forced it, but because I needed it. Over time, I realized something important. Your body doesn't stop needing movement just because you stop working. In fact, after retirement, movement becomes even more important. Doctors today will tell you, back then, I didn't think in those terms. I just knew on the days I walked, I felt better. So I kept walking. Another thing that changed after retirement was how I ate. When I was working, meals were rushed. Quick breakfast, fast lunch, heavy dinner. After retiring, I had time, so I slowed down. My wife and I started cooking more at home. Simple meals, vegetables, lean meat, soup, nothing complicated. But here's what I learned. Eating well isn't about strict diets. It's about consistency. Smaller portions, less sugar, less processed food. And over time, that made a bigger difference than anything extreme. Now here's something most people ignore. Your body isn't the only thing that slows down after retirement. Your mind can too, if you let it. I saw it happen to friends. They stopped working, then they stopped thinking. Same routine every day, no challenge, no curiosity. And slowly they faded. I didn't want that, so I made a decision. I would keep learning, not in a classroom, but in life. I started reading more, fixing small things around the house, even helping neighbors with simple electrical issues. Nothing big, but enough to keep my brain engaged. And science backs this up today. Mental stimulation helps reduce cognitive decline and keeps your mind sharp as you age. One more thing made a huge difference. People. After retirement, it's easy to become isolated. You don't see coworkers anymore. Kids are busy with their own lives. And if you're not careful, your world becomes very small. I refuse to let that happen. I made it a habit to talk to people, even if it was just a short conversation, a neighbor, a cashier, a friend on the phone, because connection keeps you alive in ways people don't fully understand. Looking back now, retirement didn't take my life away and forced me to build a new one. But here's the part most people get wrong. Freedom without structure doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like being lost. And in part 2, I'll tell you the exact habits that kept me healthy, independent, and mentally strong, even after turning 90. And why most people start declining much earlier than they should. By the time I turned 90, most of the people I had worked with were either gone or no longer able to live independently. That's when I realized aging doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly, quietly, through the choices you repeat every day. And by then, I had already built habits that carried me further than I ever expected. People often ask me, what does a normal day look like for you now? And the truth is, it's nothing impressive, but it's consistent. I still wake up early, not because I have to, but because my body remembers. Around 6 a.m., I open my eyes. The house is quiet. And just like I did years ago, I sit still for a moment. No rushing, just breathing. That one small habit helps calm the nervous system. Today, science calls it mindfulness. Back then, I just called it starting the day right. After a light breakfast, I move. Not intensely, not aggressively, just enough to keep my body alive. Some days it's walking down the street. Other days it's just moving around the house. But I never let a day go by without using my body. Because I learned something very important. If you stop moving, your body starts shutting down. Research today shows that even light daily movement improves circulation, maintains muscle strength, and reduces the risk of falls. But you don't need research to understand it. You can feel it. At my age, I don't eat for pleasure. I eat for function. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy food. It just means I understand its role. Oatmeal, soup, vegetables, a bit of protein, and I stop eating before I feel full. That's something I wish I had learned earlier. Overeating doesn't just add weight, it takes energy away. As we age, metabolism slows down. A body doesn't process food the same way it used to. So eating less but better makes a real difference. Now let me tell you something most people overlook. Longevity is not just about the body. It's about the mind. Every single day I give my brain something to do. Sometimes I even try to fix small things around the house. Not because I need to, but because it forces me to think. And thinking keeps you alive. Studies now show that staying mentally active helps reduce the risk of memory decline and keeps cognitive function strong. But again, this isn't theory for me. This is lived experience. Now here's the truth most people don't want to hear. People don't decline because they get old. Decline because they stop living actively. They sit too much. They isolate themselves. They stop challenging their mind. Their world becomes smaller. I've seen it happen too many times. Friends who were once full of energy, slowly fading away. Not because they had to, because they gave up their routines. If there's one thing I've learned after all these years, your body follows your habits, not your intentions. You can plan to be healthy. You can wish for a long life. But none of that matters if your daily actions don't support it. Longevity isn't built in big moments. It's built in small, repeated decisions. A few years ago, I was sitting on my porch, watching the sunset. A younger man, maybe in his late 40s, walked by. He stopped, looked at me, and said, "I hope I can be like you someday." I smiled, but inside I thought, you don't need to hope. You need to prepare, because the version of you at 80 is being built by the choices you make at 40. If I could go back and speak to my 50-year-old self, I wouldn't tell him to work harder. I wouldn't tell him to make more money. I'd tell him this: take care of your body. Don't ignore small health signals. Move every day, even if you don't feel like it. Don't overeat. Stay curious. Stay connected. Because one day, those small decisions will decide how you live your final years. I'm 103 years old now. I still live in my own home, still wake up my own, still take care of myself. Not because I'm lucky, not because I'm special, but because I never stopped doing the small things that most people ignore. So if you're over 60, you don't need a perfect plan. You don't need extreme changes. You just need to start. Move your body. Eat simply. Use your mind. Stay connected. And most importantly, don't wait. Because the life you want later is already being shaped by what you do today.